Outdoor decks. Kind of three parts to this. So outdoor terraces over living space, very complicated assembly, very risky assembly. Kind of like a shower, but it also gets blizzards and ice storms, right? You freeze thaw and water. And you're attaching to staircase down and a brick wall up. There's a lot of sort of perimeter issues with these types of assemblies. So one of the main trouble spots that I've seen is people build a stone terrace and they think all the water is going to run on the top of the stone and into a drain or off the edge. And it's soaking through that stone in the grout. You're definitely going to have water through your terrace. So, and you need to collect and manage that. So you can't just put waterproofing in and then end it sort of nowhere. Like, it has to go somewhere because it will have a lot of water on it. One of the other main issues, and all three of these are repair jobs that we were brought in to help clients who someone else had built their terrace, they connected to the wall in a way that leaked at the wall. So in this top picture, we're using blocks of foam and sealant to build a dam and fill it up with water and water test it, leak like a sieve. And the other two, they both leaked at the doors and at the walls. So you have to have a good connection to your water management layer in the wall, as well as having your waterproofing on the terrace turn up far enough that water won't go over it. So on the planning question, you need a step down from any door so you can work under the door. 8 inches is the commercial standard. That's out the window in residential. 6 inches is nice. I think 4 inches is okay. Maybe not in the wrong rainstorm or snowstorm, but you really can't work under a door if there's less than 4 inches, right? You can't put 2 layers under 2 layers if there's an inch of space. So, and this is us trying to do that. It's really hard to do. So, and it's really hard to replace a roof unless there's at least 4 inches. So we want to have 4-inch step. Almost all the waterproofing and tile materials require a 1/4 inch per foot slope. And I think that makes sense because I've seen what happens if you don't. The water really sits in there, you get freeze thaw, it can push layers apart. You can just cause freeze thaw damage to the cement and stone. So we really want to get a 1/4 inch a foot. You got to figure out where the water's going, and people will be unhappy if the efflorescence from the stone deck is just running over the walls. So you got to collect and manage that. So those are all planning issues. The question that happens is when you're working in you're connecting to a floor that's 10 or 14 inches tall, and you want to have the ceiling level below, and you want to have a 4-inch step down, and you want to have 1 1/4 inch of plywood and a thick layer of mud and tile, and 2 inches of slope and 8 feet. Well, you're down to like 2 inches at the outside wall. There's no room for a floor system under that, right? So these are impractical assemblies on some houses. You just can't really fit all the things you need to make it waterproof if you're trying to have the ceiling level and step out onto a terrace. So be careful with that. So our standard assembly has 5 layers. I'll go through those. The first is what you might call a roof or waterproofing layer. We usually use TPO. It's a kind of roofing material that has joints that don't require maintenance. They're heat welded. Sometimes we've used a waterproofing material like this is a polyurethane waterproofing. And this should be sloped 1/4 inch a foot. Remember, there will be water on that, so you need to drain it off the edge, and you need to have the edge flashings and gutters and whatever you need to make sure that that water goes where you want it to. Here's an example of an efflorescence issue on a house. We were asked to fix this, and we sort of did. But you got to watch out for that. There will be efflorescence. So the next layer above that is a drainage layer, a layer that stays open, doesn't allow water to stay there and do freeze thaw damage. So mirror drain like materials, a dimple sheet membrane with a fabric on top so water can get into it and run out across it. That's what we want. Schluter makes one of them. There's a number of different versions. And remember, at the edge we're going to have water both down at that level and coming off the top. So you got to catch the efflorescence. Schluter has some really nice edge metal pieces that can be worked into these assemblies and cover the rough edges that make it a lot prettier. So they have dozens of profiles. They're really nice materials. The next layer is our sort of actual setting material. It's about 1.5 inch minimum of mortar. There's this stuff Schluter sells called Becotech that's basically a big plastic sheet with hole. It sort of makes spaces to make it lighter. I don't know if we need to use that or not. It's probably a good idea to reinforce this. We've used the fiberglass, chopped up fiberglass to reinforce this layer, and that works really well. It's very strong. It's easy to work with. Some people have tried using mesh, like in this big picture. That can work. It's a pretty thin layer to get mesh into, but it'll work. And then on top of that, we're going to put a primary waterproofing membrane, something like this stuff. Noble Deck. A very thick, heavy, kind of curdy type stuff with the fleece on both sides, so you thin set it on both sides. Or Ditra. Now, Ditra, the original version, has these little dimples, right? People have speculated for a while that if you got water in there, it would freeze thaw. Like, where would the water go if it got into these holes? And they're all full of thin set, but I don't really know the answer to that, but I do know that they came out with a new version, and the new version has the fabric on top, so the water doesn't get stuck in the holes. So I think there probably actually was a problem with those. Anyway, Ditra Drain is the material to use. You put that on top of the mud, or in this example, the Noble Deck, and then you put your tile and stone on top of that, and don't forget your movement joints. If you have a deck that's 40 feet in one direction and 25 in another, you know, you're going to have cracks or joints. Pick one. All right, that's our 5 layers. Any questions on that? Okay, you guys are heroes. You're making it through. All right, so as I said, I find these assemblies to be risky, challenging. Can't really get the ceiling and the floor at the height you want on a lot of houses. What are some alternatives? Here's one that we've been using lately. You run the roofing membrane, and then you just put pallets on top of it, either directly or on top of little stanchions that are adjustable, so pedestals. So this is one that's Ipe wood. This is one that Bobby designed that has concrete pavers. And because it's free flowing under this, you only need 1 layer of waterproofing. And because, so if you step down 4 inches from the door, you know, then you can run this almost right up to the door. It's actually a good way to get the no-step look that people want while still having a functioning waterproofing system. So I really like these. Also, should there ever be an imperfection, it's relatively easy to repair. Not that that would ever happen. But I think that's a great way to go. And they have these in natural stone. They have them in almost anything you can think of. Another option that our clients probably won't like is this sort of outdoor vinyl floor material called Duradeck. I think we used this on a couple of jobs a long time ago when we were still doing like vinyl siding and stuff like that. But I think the main issue with this is the looks. I don't know how durable it is either, but anyway, it's out there. Might be appropriate for a condo or something. Okay, any questions on outdoor decks? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've done it. That is it. That is the most pictures of any discussion I have. Congratulations, and does anyone have any questions on any of that stuff? You've had some time to think about the stuff we talked about half an hour ago. Anything come up? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
On the marble and limestone, I think is what you said, there's a warranty exclusion. Is it only related to discoloration?
I think with limestone, there's some additional things with the holes opening up, because some of them have a lot of pores and they fill the top layer, but then sometimes you step on them and you crush into the lower ones, so we have an exclusion for that as well. But other than that, those are the only issues. Yeah, it's really cosmetic. Yeah.
So with the replacing the showers and the curves and stuff like that, you really have to take out a layer of flooring tile as well to get the curve out.
That's a good question. I think in a retrofit situation, I might just try to seal that to the tile as best I can or something like that. To me, the key point is kind of the upper corner of the curb, not really at the bottom. Yeah. You have a friend who needs a new shower? Yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry, the question was, do you need to remove floor tile to run Curdy down onto the floor if you're retrofitting a shower? And I think that is a situation I would probably take a risk of trying to seal it to the existing tile rather than tear out the floor tile. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks everyone, really appreciate it. Good luck out there, and give me a call if anyone has any issues.